Hello Threadbanger, my name's Laura and I'm from the YouTube channel Dodgy Redhead. Even though I don't have red hair anymore, I can fix that though. Lots of redness. It's most definitely dodgy. I'm going to show you today how to make this dress in its full glory and awesomeness. Me posing really bad. And the best thing about it is it's made out of a man's giant t-shirt. It's a bit like a shift dress. I'm going to take this off, this is itching my head. I'm going to do this in two sections. So the first section is going to show you how to make a pattern to fit your body shape, and the second one is going to be how we actually use the pattern to make this dress. What you're going to need is newspaper, tape, measuring tape, a pencil and paper or anything to write down your measurements on. The first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to measure your bust, your waist, your hips, and then write them down on this little piece of paper. You're then going to want to half that amount and then write that down afterwards. This is what we're going to be using to make our pattern. You're then going to want to get your newspaper and lay it out on the table and tape it down. Once you do that, you're going to want to draw a line down the middle. I find this easier just to make sure that it's even on both sides. And then for my ease, with a halved amount, which is 14 inches I think for the middle part of my body, I folded it in half to get like a halfway point, and then put that halfway point on the line and then mark out at the number that the maximum amount's supposed to be. Do that on both sides. A good thing you can do, if you have it, is if you already have like a dress or something like that that has that sort of shape that fits you fine, turn it inside out so it's flat as possible and then trace that, because then at least then you won't have to do all the measurements individually. And once you do that, you're going to want to cut out the pattern. I'm not doing this with the seam allowance. I always add the seam allowance afterwards, but if you want to add a seam allowance, then do that. I always write down on my pattern itself that I've made whether it has seam allowance or not. We're going to move on to the second part, which is actually making this t-shirt. Woo! What we're going to need for that is a sewing machine or needle and thread, your pattern, a pair of scissors or a rotary cutter, pins, a chalk, and of course a t-shirt. Without the t-shirt, we're not really going to get far with this. But we have a t-shirt. Lay your t-shirt down flat and then put your pattern on top of it. And then I use my pen or chalk to draw around the edges, adding the seam allowance because my pattern doesn't have a seam allowance, all the way around the edges. I then pin the t-shirt down through both sides without the pattern so that when I cut it, everything stays the same on both sides. And then just cut along the seam allowance. Once you cut out your t-shirt, you're going to want to take the pins out and then turn the t-shirt inside out with right sides facing together and repin it. But you're only going to leave a space for the armholes, otherwise if you sew it all the way up, which believe it or not I have actually done, you're going to have nowhere to put your arms. I set my sewing machine to a zigzag setting, that way it gives it a little bit more give and a little bit more stretch, and you're going to want to sew it. At this point I'd like to try it on just so I can see whether it fits properly, and then if you want to make it into this type of boat neck type top, then what I like to do is to touch like the top of my shoulders where your bra straps would be and then mark it there, and it would, because it naturally stretches, it will go down to your shoulders, but you don't want to cut it down to your shoulders because it'll be too loose and it'll be falling off, and yeah, that's not very tasteful if your clothes are falling off. Mark off nice and smoothly around the front, and when you're happy with that is to use your scissors again and to cut off the neck hole where you've cut it with where you've marked it, and then turn the t-shirt inside out and then just fold the edges in to make a nice and neat neck seam and around the armholes, and sew that back on together as well. And then we get to the really good part when you get to wear it, and in this video you get to watch me posing in it. I know, it just does not get any better than that. If you don't want to make a dress, that's absolutely fine, because all you have to do is just cut around the bottom how long you want it to be and just seam the bottom end of it, and you can just make it into a top. Now you can now go to the shops or charity shops or whatever and you see something that's in a man's size or it's not in your size and you're like, oh, I can buy that and I can turn it into something that will look wonderful. If you like this video, then I have a few more videos on my channel on Dodgy Redhead, where I show you how to alter some more clothes and stuff to make them, you know, more personal and fitting to you. I really hope you enjoy this Threadbanger. This has been absolutely wonderful. And you know what I get to do now? I don't have the sound effects, but I have a pair of scissors.